So let's start with question number 6. How can we call a stored procedure using LINQ? In a previous session, we have seen that how we can do insert, update and delete operations using LINQ objects. And in all those sessions, we have never used stored procedures. So basically what used to happen is that in the backend, LINQ queries were translated to SQL queries and they were fired to the database. Now many of the developers who know the advantage of using stored procedures, would like to see stored procedures being used rather than on the fly built SQL being fired on the database. So in this session we will see that how we can use stored procedures using LINQ classes and entities. In order to use stored procedures in LINQ classes and entities, we need to first make our entity class. So let's see that what we want to achieve in this sample. So here's my simple customer class. This customer table. The customer table has 3 properties: customer ID, customer code and customer name. I've also made a stored procedure called as USP_select customer. Now USP_select customer basically is a simple stored procedure which basically returns all the records from the customer table. So the first step is that we need to create an entity class for this customer table. So here's my cls customer.cs, and you can see that I have created a simple class called as cls customer entity, which basically maps to the customer table using the table attribute. And I have also defined all the necessary properties as per the field names. So that's the first step. Now let's move on to the next step. Now as a second step, we need to call up execute method call. Now execute method call is a protected function which basically belongs to the data context class. Now because it is a protected function, and if you want to call up a protected function, we need to inherit from the data context class. So I have created my own class called as CLS by context, which basically inherits from data context class. Then we go ahead and we create our own function called as get customer all. Now you can see that the get customer all basically returns back I single result. I single result represents a data from a table. So it represents a row or a record from a table. We then use the function mapping to map the stored procedure name with the function. So for example, I've used the function attribute to map my stored procedure USP_select customer with the function get customer all. Now we are all set to make up a function call to the execute method call. So we call the execute method call and we pass in the method info. Using the method info, execute method call uses reflection and gets the stored procedure name of the method which is attached, and it executes the stored procedure. And after the stored procedure is executed, it returns back I execute result. From I execute result, you can use the return value to get up your I single result. So this is the most important step in using stored procedure in LINQ entities. So what we need to remember is that to make a stored procedure call, we need to use execute method call. Execute method call is basically a protected function which belongs to the data context class. So for that we need to create our own custom class which inherits from data context class. And because it is using reflection to extract the function name from the attribute, you need to ensure that you have imported system.reflection in your class. So now let's go and execute this project. What we'll do is that we'll first look at the client code and then we will execute this project and see that how basically it returns back the data. So let's complete the final step, the third step, that is executing or calling the LINQ class from the client. So here's my behind code. So what I've done is the first step is we just create the custom context class which we have just explained, and we call the get customer all function which basically returns back I single result, and we loop through the records of the get customer call to display customer code. So pretty simple, there is nothing great science in this. The only important crux or the only important meat which we need to understand is the execute method call. So that we have already completed. So let's execute this. You can get this project from questpondvideo.com. In case you have bought the DVD, you can get it from the source code folder. Any issues about the source code, any issues about fundamentals not understood, you can always mail us at questpond@questpond.com and we will definitely reply to it. So here's my record which is displayed, and in this way we were able to execute stored procedures from the LINQ classes. I hope that this session was useful. In the coming up sessions, we will see more detailed implementation of LINQ entities, LINQ classes, we are also going to do a small project in LINQ, which will basically help us to understand that how we can use LINQ in 3-tier architecture or in n-tier architecture. So with that, you can visualize that how you can use LINQ practically in your projects.